Hey there, it's the Prof, and I am away in Canada, so our podcast is on ice just for this week. We will be back next week with the dev to do our normal thing, but for this week, I figured I'd drop an episode of our sister podcast, the RPG Backlog. It is a podcast where we dig into our backlog, find an RPG that we have not played, get together with some friends, and talk about it. So here's one of our latest episodes. This is about Final Fantasy XII. Hope you enjoy. All right, my friends, welcome to episode 1, the proper episode of our Final Fantasy XII deep dive discussion from the RPG Backlog with Prof Plays Games and Friends. For this ride, we've got Travis. We've been friends since since high school. And he's also friends with Anthony the Dev from our main podcast feed, Prof and Dev Play Games. We're glad to have you here. We are diving into Final Fantasy XII, a game that neither of us have played, but has been on our backlog. So we're diving in for good or for ill. So do you want to dig into like beat by beat, or do you want to start with like overall thoughts here, Travis?
You know, I struggle with that one. I would say let's probably go just overall thoughts and impressions first, and then maybe we can kind of dive into it a little bit deeper.
That sounds
afterwards.
Good. That makes sense. So tell everyone that we are dealing with a chunk of the game here. I'm using a guide from NeoSeeker just to kind of chunk out the plot or the pieces of the game. So we have played through basically the first 6 parts of the NeoSeeker guide, and I will put this guide in the notes for this podcast so you can follow along as well. But it basically, according to this guide, covers the Nalbina Fortress, which is basically the introduction tutorial where you're playing as Rex, I believe. And then we switch over to Vaughn in the Garamsite waterways in Rabanastre. I'm saying these fucking proper nouns wrong, I'm sure. Then Dalmasca Estersand, and then Rabanastre again in Lowtown, then out to the Giza Plains, and then back to the Garamsite waterways and Rabanastre Palace, where we end with the boss battle against Flame Mane. I believe that's the name of the boss.
Yep.
All right, nailed it. So that's my contribution to this podcast. The rest of the podcast will be Travis talking about this game.
Well, it'll be a short podcast.
All right, so what'd you think overall?
Overall, I struggle with it. I see. The very first thing that I have to say right out the door, I was like, why does it always have to be like a thief or a street urchin or like an orphan as the main character? Like, what the frick is that? What is that beat? It's always some character that's down and out or forgotten and kicked to the side. And I get the whole rags to riches theme, but at some point in time, come on, man, give me something a little bit different to chew on. But beyond that, the story is starting to grab my attention. But the gameplay loop itself right now is still struggling to connect with me.
And is that because of, where we're at in the game now, we've really just been introduced to the Gambit system, which if people have not played it, I'm sure people have who are listening to this, who tunes into a fucking Final Fantasy XII podcast who has not played the game. But if you haven't, the Gambits are ways to like automate actions for the players or the characters, like healing under a certain percentage or attacking or whatever. Is that the piece that's kind of like making it feel hands-off and unengaging a little bit?
I think the first part of it is we spent the vast majority of this controlling one character, right? So, when you have a timer going, you're sitting there, it's like, okay, sweet, auto attack. And you don't have any skills either. Let's be real. So you're just
hitting with a dagger.
Yeah,
basically.
So you're literally just hitting attack and then sitting there twiddling your thumbs for, it's like not like the combat lasts for a minute. It's, 10, 15 seconds. But still, right now, you're just kind of twiddling your thumbs, which are like, this is not entertaining. And then even when you get other ones, you still don't have a lot of control over them yet. So maybe as the Gambit system starts fleshing out more, it'll be more entertaining. But right now, it feels more of a slog. It's like that first part of an MMO where you start to do things. You're like, oh, go kill this boar. Yay. It's not really that exciting.
Fetch quests and boring shit. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
I kind of felt the same way for probably 95% of the section we played, where it really is just like attack. The gambits aren't even fully fleshed out, and they're still not. But it's just, it felt like some sort of disconnect between like me hitting, imagine input delay, right? Where you hit the button and like 5 seconds later your character attacks. You're like, that's fucking frustrating. That's not what's happening here, but it kind of feels like it because that attack bar to get to the action phase is slow. And I'm running around the enemies. I don't know if you did this, but as you're waiting for your bar to go, I'm thinking, do I need to run away from the enemies? If I run away from the enemies, will they not hit me? But then I have to get back in time for my hit to hit them. And I'm not sure, maybe you found out and I didn't, but I'm not sure if your proximity to the enemies means you won't get hit if you're not near them. Or like, I saw that there was blocking from Vaughn or Rex earlier.
Yeah.
Randomly, yeah. So I was like, what's influencing that? I don't really know how that's happening or if I'm can contribute to that happening more often. I don't know. How did you feel with it?
So the thing that I noticed is running away didn't seem to do shit. Like if they're going to hit you, they're going to hit you in the story. Like I was like, oh, maybe if I get behind them and they're facing another one of the, so like in the very beginning tutorial where you're as Rex and there's actually other, I wouldn't call them party members, but there's other people on your side fighting the same thing.
Yeah, Bosch is there. Yeah, and other people.
I was like, maybe if I'm behind the mob and it's facing Bosch, I won't get hit. It's like, no, if it's targeting you, you get hit. Doesn't matter where you are around it. But I do know that even if you're targeting something and your time comes up for your action and you're out of range, you hold action essentially.
Oh, so you don't, if you're out of range, you're not going to attack. You're going to hold it to get in range.
And then when you get into range, you'll attack and then your timer will start at that point in time.
Sure.
So, but the other thing I did notice was a disconnect. And I don't know if this is a graphical thing or not, but I would see it get up and be like action. I'd watch Vaughn or Rex attack and then look back down. The bar would still say action for like another second or two before it would start filling up again. I'm like, wait. It did the action. Why isn't it filling up again? Why is it sitting there doing nothing? Why
is there a delay? Yeah, I've noticed that as well.
So, and I don't know if it's a graphical thing because the other thing is when I first started up the game, I didn't have the subtitles on. And I have an ultra-wide monitor, 3440 by 1440. So the game plays on the entire screen. The cutscenes give me these black bars on the side. But I didn't have the subtitles, so it looked like I had a black bar on the side and a giant black bar across the bottom as well.
Yeah.
And then when I turned the subtitles on, I was like, oh, that black bar on the bottom is actually where they've purposely blacked it out for subtitles. But it it looked like my monitor was like this weird chunk in the top middle of my screen was the only thing that was showing. I was like, oh, crap. Did it say widescreen and they actually effed it up and it wasn't really widescreen. So...
And you've only played on the PC.
Yeah, I've never played anywhere else.
Okay, because I'm playing on the Steam Deck, which I had that. Anthony in our Discord, we have a sub channel just for Final Fantasy 12 because he's excited that we're playing. And it's honestly just nice for him to chime in and be like, yo, here's some stuff you need to know. And he was like, if you're going to play in the Steam Deck, here's information. People have had problems playing it because of the graphical settings. It just shows a white screen, which is totally what happened to me. So I had to go in and fix the settings and, it's fine. But I've been enjoying just kind of curling up on the couch with a fucking Steam Deck and just getting into a big, what I think is going to be a meaty RPG. I think overall, aside from the combat, like I'm interested in the story. Yeah. And obviously if you're here for this fucking podcast, we're spoiling it. We're talking about the story, but it starts off with, God, that fucking can't remember their names. I know Rex. Ash was, but the king's name. So it starts with the king and queen. It starts with their wedding procession. It's not even a king and queen. I think it was a prince and princess or lord and lady, but it was like Lady Ash. Was the woman, but it was
the other like noble who ended up leading the army and then dying.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but it basically starts off with them and then he dies, and then as you kind of progress a little bit, you find out that she killed herself, but it happened off screen. Ash, so I'm not sure if she's alive or not. But there's so much political stuff happening, like really instantaneously and carrying forward. There's the whole tutorial thing is basically where Rex and his party, including Bosch, are going to save the king. And by the time Rex gets into the throne room, the king is dead, and it looks like Bosch killed the king, and Bosch gets thrown in jail, or I think he gets thrown in jail or taken away for it. So there's this whole mystery. And then you fast forward a couple of years where you are playing as Vaughn, who I believe is Rex's brother.
Yeah, he's Rex's brother.
Yeah, Rex's brother. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I think in general that's where the story is so far. I don't know. You hook up with other party members. You hook up with Baltier, which is the same voice actor as fuck, you still haven't played. I keep forgetting you haven't played this game. Final Fantasy VII Remake, Biggs voice actor, that same voice actor. And then there is the sexy bunny, and boy, there's a sexy bunny character in this game. Fran, thank you, Fran. So you end up becoming party members with them. Pinello is in there, another party member who comes and goes. I think she'll be a permanent party member eventually, I assume. But you're kind of getting in with them, and the story's going to progress with like who these people are. But that's kind of all the story that there's been so far. Do you think I've missed something?
The only other thing I would say is they had a new, I don't know what you want to call him, but basically a person come over and take, because the king is dead.
Yeah.
The empire that took over brought in some new person to watch over the what was the kingdom.
The council, the
council,
Consul Vane.
Yep. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a group of insurgents that were attacking that whole thing, and that's where Amalia, I call her Amalia.
Amalia,
her name's spelled.
Yep.
Which I looked at her and I was like, were you the inspiration for Lightning in Final Fantasy 13? Because you look pretty damn close, except for the lacking the pink hair.
What's funny is when I looked at her, I thought, are you Princess Ash, who supposedly killed herself off screen?
Probably.
I'm still not convinced that it's not. Yeah, I have no idea. But I was just like, that looks like you. And the way they were talking about her was like, Baltier was like to her, like, no, it's not time yet. I was like, do you fucking know each other? Like, maybe this is the princess. I don't know, man.
I would not be surprised, because that is kind of a Square. Oh, I mean, I call them Squaresoft, but Square Enix trope to be like, oh, this important figure killed themselves. Like, haha, no, they really didn't. They are now the leader of the insurgency, and they're someone super important. And yeah, so I would. That's what
I would bet $100 right now that that's the case. That's who this person is.
Would not bet against you.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. I don't know, but it is true. It comes back to, this will be a 50-hour RPG, I think. So it will not all be tropey, but some of it does feel tropey. Like, the Vaughn, the Urchin, I guess we'll see where that goes, because sometimes when stories start, like high fantasy is like, there's a unknown boy who really is the Lord and Savior, like fucking the books that you like that I just can't stand. Wheel of Time. Wheel of Time does that.
Let's be fair. There's a lot of hot garbage in there, to the point where I stopped reading them too. I think, though, you're saying that only because I got further into them.
That is why I'm saying, yes, that's correct. Yeah, because you read further than the first book. Yes. Although
I read
we both. Sorry, go ahead.
Books in 6 or 7 books. Yeah, whatever.
But we have read lots of, I would say, quote unquote, trashy fantasy that we loved. Dragonlance, you got me into that. Like, Dragonlance is great. There's lots of trashy stuff. This story is not trashy, but it's starting off feeling tropey. Yep. And I have to believe it's going to get away from that. And part of it actually is Lord Consul Vane, that speech he gives, where he's basically like, yeah, I know how you feel, the big empire coming in here, but we're going to try to help you. And I was like, oh, I didn't expect that.
No, I did. I'm like, that guy he is like, the fact that he said that, I was like, okay, you are the worst, most evil a-hole in this game, period. But
interesting. I did not get that. You did not take him at his word, is what I'm hearing.
No. And again, this goes back to Square Enix, Squaresoft. This is kind of their thing. And I think if you had played Tactics prior to this, you would have probably gotten the same vibe, because that was something very similar to this in Tactics, where it was like, oh, I'm super good. And it turns out, like, no, they were the biggest asshole out of everyone imaginable. So,
well, we do see him. I think we saw him toward the end of the section we played, right? Does he show up in the palace at some point?
He showed up at the very end there right after we defeated the flame main or fire main or whatever the frick the fire horse was.
The Ponyta, in the wild. Let's see, it was Fire
The
Main.
fire pony.
Yeah, Fire Main.
I'm going to call him Fire Pony from now on. I don't care.
Well, I thought it was Flame. I started this podcast by saying Flame Main. So whoever loves this game turned it on and was like, you guys can't even get the fucking boss names right. I'm out of here. So if you're still here, thank you.
Could you really consider that a boss? Like, that wasn't even a challenge.
Yeah, the thing that's interesting is that this guide talks about the Fire Main and then Flan before them as bosses. And I was like, these are not bosses. Fire Main, I had a fucking bar on the screen, I guess.
Yeah, but you were saying that flying plane thing was a boss too, considering I was like, but I literally stood there watching it and it just eventually flew away.
He's referring to the Air Cutter Remora during the Nalbina Fortress tutorial. And yes, at least this guide calls it a boss. I think it is a boss because it has a bar on the screen with lots of HP. But yeah, it was all a tutorial to teach you how to fucking fight, you know?
Yeah, but once we beat the Fire Pony, he sat there. Vane was there with all the other soldiers, and they're the ones that captured us and put us in the dungeon. So,
and that's where we are right now. We're in the dungeon. I woke up and Baltier was there saying Fran was trying to find a place to escape, and that was it. And I don't think you got to that part, I guess.
No, I did. I woke up, Baltier talked, and then the second he was done talking, I ran straight to the save point. Didn't talk to anybody else. Hit save and call it good.
Yeah.
No.
So, just a couple of things stood out. I have some big notes and some small notes, so I'll just kind of take some random hits. I sort of like the quest that Old Dallin sends you on, where you're supposed to go out into the desert, basically, and am I remembering this right? Where you take the crescent. No, you get the crescent stone from him after you have gone out into the desert and like powered up some.
Yeah, you had to go to the Giza Plains, and then once you were out there, you went to the little village, and they were like, oh, go find this kid, and he hands you a rock, and you had to go charge it up at the stones, and then take it back for a sunstone. And then you took the sunstone back to Dolan, and he charged the crescent stone.
Which you used later in the palace, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I thought it was interesting. I don't know if, I think you mentioned earlier kind of like MMO-esque where it's like, here, go kill 5 boars, bring me back 6 pelts.
Yeah.
But this quest felt different than that. It didn't seem as boring is the wrong word, but it felt engaging to me. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I don't know.
Okay. I'll take it. The one thing I did find out the hard way is that kid telling you to stay away from werewolves was severely underselling how much you need to stay away from those.
Yeah, I think that werewolf is like many levels above where we are. Like stomp you in one move.
There was 2 of them, and they one-shotted both Pinello and Vaughn. Like, literally, I was like, oh, wait, dead. Okay, reload my last save.
Maybe I will stay away from that.
Yeah.
It is interesting because there's a lot of, trash mobs to just go level up on, which I will say the 4 times speed, I used 4 times and I dropped it down to 2 times, but the speed up for grinding is pretty fucking awesome. I wish more RPGs had that from the get-go, to be honest.
I leave 2 times on pretty much 24/7.
That's what I'm doing now as well. Just 4 times was too much.
I couldn't control where I was going.
That's exactly what happened. I couldn't control where I was in the fight. I couldn't control where I was going. It was like, okay, this is too fast. 2 times is just fine. Yeah. And I love that because some people love grinding in RPGs. I fucking don't. And I, again, trace it back to sitting in your bedroom watching you grind. I just don't find it entertaining. But some people do. But if you can shortcut it in this way, I think some people would say if you're going to shortcut it, don't put it in the game. But some people like it. Whatever. So if they let me shortcut it, I'm happy.
I mean, I don't mind grinding. It's blatantly obvious. I mean, I played World of Warcraft for how many years, EverQuest for how many years, and what is that? It's grinding. That's literally all you do. But to me, it's just so... This bothers me because I look at the combat and I'm sitting there going, so is this literally the origins of just about every online, like every mobile game? Because it's so... automatic for you. It feels like I'm playing a game on my phone almost.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking at it, I was like, wait a second, this came out in 2006, which predates the iPhone by a little over a year.
Yeah, right.
And this kind of lays the groundwork for what I think nowadays is most mobile RPGs. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if I've played enough mobile RPGs to weigh in on that, but that sounds right. I will say.
I would. This popped in my head when I was playing. I'm like, going, I really need to ask Anthony this one because maybe he has a better idea.
Well,
I know he doesn't do mobile games, but I know he's.
Well, he has. He played, and I'm fucking struggling to think of the name of it right now. One of the people who are on the Axe the Blood God podcast, Vic, he does the voice for this character who is Dragalia Lost. Nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he played the shit out of that, and I think that's a feature of that. Although I'm thinking you on the previous podcast you said that one of your favorite games of all time was Xenogears, and Xenogears morphed into or whatever
Xenosaga.
Exactly, and then Xenoblade. So I played Xenoblade 1, and I don't know if you've played that. Have you played that?
No, Xenosaga basically killed my love for that whole franchise. I tried a couple of times and the reason why is the first 2 hours of that was basically watching a movie. I was like, I bought a game, not a movie.
Wait a second, haven't you played Metal Gear though? Like Solid and 2 and 3?
Just the first one.
Oh, you never played past 1?
No.
All right, then I can't make fun of you because they're fucking movies, man.
Right? Then that's part of the reason why I didn't play them.
That's why you stopped. Yeah, that makes sense. But I was going to say for Xenoblade, it has a similar feature where you can. There's no AI gambits or whatever, but like auto happens. You're auto attacking at least.
Good. I never used it.
Oh, could you do that in Xenogears too?
Xenogears, there was an option to set the combat to auto just because it knew that and it only happened when you were such a high level and you were fighting things low enough to it was basically impossible for you to lose the fight.
Oh, interesting.
Because in Xenogears, the game started out where obviously you're just this little dude and you can't do much. And eventually you fight mechs. The only way to kill the mech is to get your own mech. But by the third disc, I got to the point where my little dude could destroy mechs on his own without being in his mech. And so, yeah, when you got to that point, you could just sit there and say, yeah, auto this one. And it would crunch the numbers real quick and be like, yep, nope, you defeated it, done, go.
Interesting.
But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Xenosaga or Xenoblade has something similar to that.
Yeah, it just felt like an echo, like reminiscent. They call it, for this game, they call it Active Dimension Battle, which is the whole Gambit thing and the automatic kind of stuff. So I'm interested in that. But I in researching Final Fantasy 12 in general and thinking about Final Fantasy from like a, this is the wrong term, but like scholarly perspective, because I haven't played these games as much as you have, I learned that Final Fantasy 12 is the first one that basically didn't have random encounters. And okay, if that's true, how do you feel about that not being the case, where you can see the enemies and avoid them, or whatever? Or would you rather have random encounters?
They both have their benefits and their downsides, right? Because sometimes you're just trying. The thing that always got annoying with the random encounters is when you get to a certain point and you're going through a low level area, you're like, dude, you couldn't. Like, I could sneeze on these mobs and now we're going to fall over. Mm-hmm. But you're making me go through the motions of this garbage when I'm level 70 and this is level 2. Dumb. Like, at some point in time you shouldn't have to deal with this. But with a random encounter, there's no way to surpass it. Granted, 7 and most of them had an item that you could put on there that would eliminate random encounters. So being able to see them and avoid them to some degree is beneficial when you're just like, okay, I need to get from point A to point B. Screw you guys, you're all low level. I want out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it takes away kind of the surprise element of it by like, oh, I know exactly where you are. So if I just avoid you, I don't have to fight you. I mean, it depends on what you're after. I don't see anything too negative about it, but I can see where people would be like, oh, this kind of sucks.
Yeah, because I wonder if it's, I don't know if it's come back to Final Fantasy. I mean, it's certainly not in 16 and it's not in 15. I haven't played 14. Maybe you know.
What do you mean? But
The random encounter.
random encounter? No,
Yeah.
14 MMOs. You see everything out there, and that's
Okay.
what 14 is an MMO. So I think that's part of the reason why 12 doesn't bother me in that regard, because I've played so many MMOs that to me I'm just used to seeing the things I need to kill or fight in front of me anyways.
Yeah. I think there's, recent indie games. I think I can't name one off the top of my head right now, but have reintroduced random encounters in some way, but a way to avoid it. Just like you said, for some of the other games.
I haven't played it, but it's on my list. Sea of Stars, did they go back and put that in, I wonder?
I put 5 or 6 hours into that game, and I can't remember if there are random encounters. I don't think there are.
To this day, I can explicitly remember countless times playing 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 and being like, why am I getting another fucking, encounter?
Yeah.
Literally, you're level 2, I'm level 70.
Yep.
Go away.
You don't want to fuck with me. Stop this.
Right. But if there's 5 of them, I have to go through 5 turns because I can't, unless I use an ability that sometimes, I'm going to use MP and cast a spell that kills everything at once. But it's, at the same time, oh my God, that's so overkill that I could kill 50 of them with that one spell. Why am I going to do it to kill 5?
Yeah.
So
right.
I don't miss the random encounters, but I can see when moving around, I explicitly remember this on multiple occasions. You're moving through an area, and you're like, oh my God, there's a safe point. I'm almost there. And all of a sudden, boom, right before you get to that random encounter, you're like, oh shit. You're like, my resources are stretched to the limit, and it's really tense. You're trying to figure out how to get through it and survive it. And now that I can see them, it's like, oh, there's the save point. Well, if I just make this little arc around it, I get there no problem, and I've taken that tension and excitement out of the game.
Yeah.
So, it does have its benefits, but at the same time, I don't mind not having that frustration of going through an area where they're just so low level that I want to throw something at the screen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that they made the switch, though. I mean, I guess I never played 11, but that's the one game. When I came back from college in the middle, my cousin was playing Final Fantasy 11, and I was like, what is this? And he's like, oh, it's MMO, Final Fantasy. I was like, you play Final Fantasy? What the hell? But I assume they didn't have random encounters either. Like you said, MMOs don't do that. Yeah.
And that's still going strong, too, as far as I know.
11 is still going alongside 14?
Yeah.
Wow, interesting. Okay. Would not
as far as I know.
Yeah, that makes sense. The license board I thought was interesting. I haven't played 10. You have. 10 had a sphere grid.
Yeah, similar thing, concept.
Yeah, so the license board where you kind of spend license points to unlock an ability, and then that opens up new abilities, almost like Minesweeper, where hit one tab and then more squares open up on the grid. But eventually you can kind of eke into other job classes stuff, I assume. How does that system work for you?
To me, I like it better than a lot of systems. So 10, that was one of the highlights, was the sphere in the grid and being able to customize it. And same thing here. I like this concept more than what 9 had, or the more traditional older schools like 1 through 6, where each character was just predefined and set in a class. And sure, the class could evolve to some degree, but it was like, this character is a thief, this character is your mage, this character is your white mage, right? I like the ability to, and it probably stems from the fact that I started on 7, where 7, nobody has a class. It's all based upon what material you put on the character and what type of abilities they have. So
the thing I like about that system, and I'm not sure, I haven't played enough with the job system here or job systems in general, and I know you can switch jobs later in this game, but material you can just swap in and out. So you can just experience different stuff at any time and level up new stuff and just kind of play around and see what fits best for you. Whereas, I committed to Time Battle Mage. I think it was Time Mage or Time Battle Mage in this game, because I've never fucking heard of that, and I thought it was cool. I figured, I hope it's balanced enough that any job class you pick is cool. We'll see.
I would say the Time Mage is probably going to take you it's going to sound like I'm saying a pun. It's going to take you time before it actually comes into its full power. From other games, time mages early are weak, but when you get them up to a higher level and you get some of the more powerful skills and the spells, they can completely dominate and control a battle.
Perfect. I don't mind going slow because I'm still learning the game, so that's good. And I forget what jobs I chose for my other party members at this point. I think I chose Archer for Fran, and Baltier, boy. Oh, was Samurai a job? I should have written a note about this. Am I making that up?
There's Shikari. There's a couple other. I don't think it was Samurai.
Okay.
I know it wasn't Samurai. I know it's something else. So here's the thing that's probably dumb on my part. When Baltier and Fran joined my party, I looked at the license boards. I was like, oh, they don't have anything on their thing. I didn't give them jobs.
Oh.
Because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be keeping them or if this is just going to be a short-term thing and that they just get to join for a little bit and then they leave. So I went through this whole section with the only person that actually had a job in my group at this point in time was Vaughn. When Pinello joined my group, and this is why I didn't do it, because Pinello joined our group for a little bit. I immediately put her as a red mage, and then she left. I was like, oh, well, shit, dude, there just went my red mage. So when Fran and Baltier joined, I was like, okay, I'm not going to give you jobs if you're just going to turn around and walk out of my party in 10 minutes. I'm not going to put the effort to figure out what I want to do with you two. So screw you. You're just going to be auto attacks and heal bots. And I got through it just fine.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Maybe I should give them jobs because now it's starting to look like they might be part of my party a little bit longer than I expected.
Yeah, maybe you should.
Oh, well.
Although, yeah, I mean, I assume, I don't know, Penella's coming back at some point?
I would assume she is too, but it was just kind of a what the heck is going on here.
Yeah, sure. I'm going through some of my notes here, and I wrote down a couple of things I forget who said this. I wish I'd have written down who said it, but I thought it was a good line. Vitality before violence was basically like, give yourself some fucking potions before you go out there and start fighting. And
Baltier said that.
Baltier? Okay. It sounds like Baltier. Which is interesting because it already sounds like Baltier, and I've only been with that character for a little bit of these 4 hours, but what I'm trying to get to is I feel like the writing is good. Anthony sent a article in the Discord basically about the localization, and it was done by, and I always forget, Alexander O. Smith, I think, and his partner in that work. But man, they spent a fuck ton of time localizing it and really polishing the script, and I feel like it stands out as being well written so far.
Something, and I don't know if this is still true to this day, but I will say that the old school, like the late 90s, early 2000s, all the effort on Final Fantasy games, when it came to the localizations and the scripts, seemed on top notch. Like they put a lot of effort into it. As Anthony and I were telling you, dude, if I have any inclination as how this story is going to go based off of the writing, it's going to be up there. But tactics, my God, that story in that game just, I don't think there's another RPG that's come out that hits as well as that one does.
Well, can I ask you about that? Because if I'm not wrong, 12 and Tactics are both set in Ivalice.
Ivalice.
How do you say it?
Ivalice.
Ivalice. I've only ever heard Ivalice. That's interesting. Ivalice.
I've heard it as Ivalice and Tactics.
Oh, okay.
I've heard him actually
if the
say
games
it.
fucking said it, then yeah.
But that's also going off of the fact that whoever did the voice acting on it got the right pronunciation when they did the recording versus what it was originally intended to be.
Interesting.
But yeah, Tactics was set in Ivalice or Ivalice, however you want to say it.
So do you see any connection? Do you see any, like, so far, any flavor?
No. I mean...
No, not at all?
Hey, there's Anthony. I don't know if I see any connections between this and Tactics yet, but maybe that comes, and the gentleman who just joined us might be able to give us insight into that.
Anthony from the famous podcast Prof and Dev Play Games. He is the dev. He is here, and he is the person who has played this game a lot. Hey, Anthony.
4 times, I think.
Only 4 times?
You have 5 copies.
Completed it 4 times. Started it? How many times have I started it? Who knows?
We saw the picture of the 5 different copies, man.
Well, yeah, that's just because I'm collecting different regions versions of the game.
I'm just teasing.
But we were just talking about the writing and how I shared a line that I wrote, "Vitality before violence." It was advice given from someone to Vaughn, and I was like, "Who was that?" And then Travis was like, "It was Baltier," and I was like, "Oh yeah, that sounds like Baltier." And I've only played this game for 4 hours and been with Baltier for like maybe one of that, if that, and it already stands out as like something you can pick off a page and say that is that character.
Yeah, writing's good, definitely. But I mean, it's a lot of the same. We've kind of talked about this before. It's the same people that did a lot of Matsuno's other games. Not the original Final Fantasy Tactics when it released on PS1, because that was an awful translation.
Did War of the Lions have a different one?
Yeah, completely redone and revoiced.
Oh, interesting.
So
and it's a much better version.
That might be where they changed the name from Ivalis to Ivalice, just like I said.
Yeah, what do you say, Anthony?
Yes.
You say
Ivalice.
Got it.
See?
Okay.
But if you go back and play the original one, I remember this explicitly that they call it Ivalis.
Interesting.
Yeah, no.
Right? So when he said when Larry pronounced it Ivalice and I said Ivalis, he's like, "Oh wait, you're pronouncing it wrong." And I literally said, "Well, I'm going off of how they pronounced it, but you're assuming that the people that did the voice acting had the right pronunciation to begin with."
Well, I'm just going off of a podcast, so I don't know.
I would go off of. Since War of the Lions, I've only heard it be called Ivalice. Because the Ivalice Alliance was like a bunch of games they put out. Like it was when Final Fantasy Tactics Advance was coming out. This was coming out. Vagrant Story. They're like, it's the new big thing from Square Enix.
Tactics Advance was kind of a letdown, but oh well.
It's a weird one.
Yeah.
It's different. And A2 is also different.
Back to I'm going through my notes and finding like big and small things to kind of bring up. One thing that I thought was interesting was kind of towards the end of the section. I think you're in Lowtown, where you have to go to Storehouse 5, and they're telling you to go to the left door, not the right door. Remember that part?
Yep.
And you get in there, and there's a kid. I can't remember the kid's. Kites, maybe? Was it Kites or was it?
Yeah, it's Kites.
Was it? Okay. And he starts out by saying, "Oh, you're here, but the door doesn't work. You have to go get 5 things." He's like, "Oh, no, just kidding. I can fix it." I was like, "Oh, fuck. You're about to send me on a fetch quest? God damn it." And then it doesn't. And I was like, yes, thank you for subverting that expectation here, because I was real pissed I had to go do a dumb fetch quest. That stood out to me as like playing with the conventions of the genre a little bit.
I mean, if you think about it, 2006, what had been out? EverQuest and World of Warcraft had come out at this point in time. And that was like, from an RPG, MMOs were the rave at that point in time. And that is the essence of an MMO. Still to this day, is like, oh, go hit these 5 things. Oh, go kill these 10 things. Oh, go take this to point A. So, I'm not surprised that they threw something in there to kind of dig at that a little bit. Yeah.
I'm going to go back to one thing that I said just because I want to hear Anthony's reaction. I think he's going to try to hold his reaction, but I am curious. We were talking about, toward the end of our piece, we ran into Amalia. Mm-hmm. And Travis said, "You look like Lightning from Final Fantasy 13. And I said, "You know what? That Princess Ash killed herself off screen. She sort of looked like Princess Ash. I would bet $100 that this Amalia person is actually Princess Ash." And Travis did not take the bet. He said that is something Square tends to do. I'm just curious your reaction.
Silence. I don't say anything.
I didn't expect you to, but you not saying anything says a lot too.
Yeah.
I also think Vane is going to turn out to be the biggest a-hole in the world too.
I took his speech where he's like talking to the rabble who's so mad at the Empire. It's like, "I understand. We're going to make things better. We're going to, you can hate me all you want." And he has that whole conversation with, I wrote the name down because I keep forgetting the fucking name. Miguelo, drink with me and don't call me Highness. Come know me. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Maybe he is down with the people, but Travis thinks that's not the case.
No.
He's a
I mean,
fascist.
that speech was pretty. It was a pretty good.
Political move.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
I would
was.
say that the one thing that he is, Vane, is smart.
Yeah.
And intelligent about his position.
It was a very good political move. And I feel like the politics in the first 4 hours just stand out as well thought out from a world building perspective. And I don't know if it like sustains itself over however many hours we're going to play this, but I think from the takeaways so far from this first section is story stands out, combat system, we shall see where that lands.
Sure.
What do you think? What do you think, Trav? Is that where you kind of land?
Yeah, I mean, the combat system is what I saw that turned me off to it, 16, 17, 18, oh God, how many, 18 years ago when the game first came out. So I'm going to hold my thoughts on that. But the story is what's keeping me going. But this actually, now that Anthony, that you're here, I don't know if you would know that, well, you might not, but I don't know what your opinions are on the fact that I was watching, as I'm doing this combat, I'm sitting there going, this feels like combat in most mobile RPGs.
No, it's MMO combat. That's what it is. It's auto attacking an MMO target. That was their inspirations for this game. One of them was Final Fantasy
11.
11
Yeah.
to make an offline MMO in some ways.
Interesting.
The battle designer is the battle designer who has done battle design, did the battle systems from 4 on. So he did everything.
Right.
ATB is his child, and this is his next version of he's given tons of interviews. He's still at Square, actually, after all these years.
What's he doing at Square now? Still some
Do you remember that? It was dungeon encounters.
Yeah.
Do you know that stupid thing?
Yeah.
I know.
It's like it's Switch game or whatever it was. That's him. He was the designer of that whole thing. Like,
interesting.
just this weird, like, abstract dungeon combat thing. But that's the last game he's been listed on in a long time. But he's still involved at the company. So, Hiroyuki Ito.
Dungeon encounters. Fuck, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's an interesting. The combat system is meant to somewhat evoke an MMO, somewhat invoke, weirdly, a kind of more Western RPG.
That's my problem is I never played Western
Neverwinter
RPGs.
Nights-ish. Real time with pause in some ways. Because I mean, that's basically how you play the game, is real time with pause. So it is a thing. I do think the one thing the combat system does do in it starts pretty slow in the game. You have to get through even the next. You're not at town yet. You have to get back to town, and then you can really start opening it up more, because you can buy more things and get more things and start tuning it to how you want it tuned.
It feels like we were talking about how, at least at the beginning, it's really just you. You get at pest tutorial, it's just you for a long time. Penella comes in, then she's gone. But you're really on your own for a long time, which led to a funny moment where I had gotten a couple of Phoenix Downs, and I was like, I'm by myself the whole fucking time. I'm just going to sell these. I need some money. And then immediately Penella joined my party. I was like, whoops, I should have kept those. But how by the end of this, 4 hours, basically, this section we played, the combat system, the gambit system really hasn't opened itself up yet, because we've only really gotten a couple of small pieces. And there's if you look at the gambit screen, there's so many things missing that it's just got to have so much more to it. But I was wondering, at what point does it fully
Once
open
you get
up?
back to town, you just need to get back to a shop.
Okay.
Then this version, it's fully open. In the original game, you couldn't buy gambits. You had to find them in the world.
Yeah.
So it was hard to set up your gambits because you had to find the right chests in the world somewhere to get the thing that you wanted. So you could do.
How does that work for like the characters? Do the characters like look at that thing and be like, "Oh, that's like materia," or is it like something that's in world, or is it not?
Well, I mean, if you've played through it so far, it's a weird thing where the characters reference.
They do, yeah.
The mechanics that you're doing. It's a choice.
Yeah.
So maybe it exists. I don't know. Break the fourth wall kind of stuff.
I was gonna say old school Square games, they were not afraid to be like, oh yeah, this is a weird mechanic that just exists and everyone accepts it.
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like. Yeah, exactly.
I would say this game is that the systems open up slowly, not as slow as 13. Thank God.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be able to get me to do 13.
You shouldn't. No one should play 13. Just leave it alone.
How
Let
about
it go away.
13-2 or Lightning Returns? Any of those?
I haven't tried any of those. It's fine. So yeah, I think this one is, if for combat, it takes its time, and you get a full party soonish. Well, I mean, you've had them now.
Well, we got the dungeon. Yeah, Fran and Baltier are there right after the flame. God damn it, Fire Main.
Guess I should give them jobs.
Maybe someone should give them fucking jobs.
You don't need to.
Oh,
I held away giving characters jobs for a little bit. I think they have jobs now.
There you go.
But I wanted to. Sometimes you just want to take your time to decide what you want.
See, Travis, you're not weird.
Like I said, I just assumed I was going to lose them like I did Pinello. I was sort of going, why am I going to waste my time figuring out what type of job and filling out your licenses if you're just going to walk away in 5 minutes?
So here's the thing that does prove anything about characters here. If you can set their job, then they will be a permanent party member.
Interesting.
They might leave for here and there based on the story, but any guests that only show up like Amalia did, you can't do anything with them.
Right.
So if they let you choose a job for them, they will be, you've found a character that's going to stay.
I'm assuming we're going to open up more jobs as time goes on, too.
No, that's all of them.
I think
we already have them all? Oh.
That's 12. You just get to pick the 12. What you will unlock as you play through the Zodiac Age is each character can pick a second job. Mm-hmm. So you get 2 license boards. And then you can reset them at any time if you want to.
Yeah, I was going to say,
change your jobs.
At the what is it, the clan house or whatever? Or
Mont
Blanc was always like, oh, if you want to switch your job, just let me know. We can change your license. They're like, oh, okay, sweet.
Yep.
Well, I was talking to...
That's a Zodiac Age change.
Interesting.
And honestly, the first version of the game in 2006 didn't even have jobs.
At all?
Everyone had the same license board. It was just one giant sprawling license board, which in theory was, when interviews were given, that would be, well, you could spec characters on different paths in the license board.
Yeah.
What really meant was everyone just got the same stuff.
And they just, because you could go different directions, I suppose, to make them different. Otherwise,
you could, but it was almost never worth it.
Yeah.
Well, just do the best things on all of them.
Yeah, you'd find the most optimized path and just take every character down that path.
So you have 4 people who are the same thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, boring. Okay.
Yes. And then the international release is where they did the jobs and the separate boards. It was what they wanted to do, but ran out of time.
Yeah.
I mean, in all fairness, you could have done the same thing in 7 with the materia to some degree.
If you have enough of it, right? Like,
you could. Most of besides the summons, you could get duplicates of any materia because once you got to max level, whenever it got time to level again, it would produce a copy of itself.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay.
So you could just
That's not the case in remake, though, right, Anthony?
No.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
I would say I'm assuming they probably got rid of that because that was the biggest problem that they probably saw with people doing in 7 is you get the most powerful material on one character, max them. It produced duplicates, set it on another character, level it all up. Next thing you know, you have 2 sets producing duplicates.
Yep.
And next thing you know, you have everybody in your party has the exact same materia.
Yeah. So they had jobs. And in the international version, you got to pick your job one time. One job, each character, once.
And then I would be stuck with
Never reset. It was a
mage
decision
the whole time. I chose time. Is time mage or time battle mage? I can't remember which one it was.
I'm battle mage, I think,
Time
in here,
battle
but
mage,
it's
yeah.
time mage.
Yeah, it looked interesting. What did you pick, Travis? For Vaughn.
For Vaughn, I just did the Shikari because it just fit his character.
Correct choice.
Shit, I made the wrong choice. Oh well.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I picked Shikari for Vaughn because it just fits him. And then I picked Red Mage for Pinello. And then Balthier and Fran both are jobless.
Unemployed in the world of Final Fantasy 12.
I mean, I was happy with my choices because, as I said, I was doing all the freaking hunts, and I got to the little cactuar dude, and I went after him with just Vaughn. I was like, oh, crap, I'm not going to be able to kill this dude. I'm not doing shit for damage to him, so I ended up running away. And the second I got Pinello, I was like, okay, I'm going to go back. There's two of us. Let's see what happens. And I used Dark on him 2 times, and his health was basically almost dead. And he likes to run away from you and drag other mobs in. So Dark does an AoE too. So like she was one-shotting literally everything else that he pulled in around him whenever she cast Dark. So I took him out pretty quick. And then unfortunately after that, I think there was no more hunts for me right now.
Yeah, I think Anthony mentioned they come back later.
Oh, I'm sure
there's a lot of hunts in the game. That's like a major part. I think there are 45 hunts.
Yeah.
Was this like a reaction to Monster Hunter being so big?
No.
No? Interesting.
This is just what Matsuno likes to do.
Oh, okay.
And Monster Hunter in 2006 was big in Japan, but not anywhere else.
Yeah.
Monster Hunter didn't get popular outside of Japan until Worlds, which was what?
Yeah.
2017, 2018?
World? I thought
Somewhere
it was 19. Yeah, but
No, it was earlier than that.
Really?
I was not employed at System at the time. So Worlds, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's old now. It was a PS4 game.
Good Lord, time flies, huh?
Yeah, but
No, 2018. Yeah, okay, so not too bad. Yeah.
But no, there's a lot of hunts and there's a lot of world rare mobs as well that you can come across. I mean, they kind of tease one at the beginning of being in the tomato area where there's the T-Rex walking around.
Which I avoided like the plague.
Good
Oh,
plan.
yeah, absolutely. I was like, nope, that's going to fuck me up.
This is a game that will totally put mobs in that you look at and you're like, not ready yet, but I will be back for you.
Early days Elden Rings. Elden Ring, I mean.
Or they'll put a mob in there that you think, I'll take a shot at it, and then it destroys you in 2 seconds.
Yes.
I got one-shotted by fucking, what was it called? Thextera? That big old wolf. Just took me out one swipe.
Really?
But you killed that one. That was a hunt.
Yeah, I did all the hunts, no problem.
Yeah, I got fucking wiped in one hit. I think it was because there were 2 other wolves with them, so all 3 of them attacked me at the same time.
Oh, whenever I do a hunt, I clear everything out around it before I go after the mob.
Yeah, I couldn't. They were just like hanging out. I was like, you fucking friends, get away. But I just left. I'll come back later and do that. At the end, I really liked the fire main fight. I feel like that's when, like, at least it was starting to come online. I was juggling different gambits. I was juggling different characters. I was trying, Vaughn died, so I switched to a different character and then revived Vaughn with my Phoenix down and, like, was juggling, keeping everyone alive. And it felt like an engaging fight. I read later, and I didn't pick up on this at the time, but because it's a fire enemy, if you stand in the water, then your attacks become imbued with water in some way. Is that true?
I don't know if it imbued, but I think you take less damage, at least from the fire attacks.
So I had read that later. I was like, I didn't even... To be perfectly honest, I didn't really think about where I was standing. I was trying to fucking survive.
You and I had vastly different experiences on that fucking fight.
What was yours?
Literally, I just stood there and auto-attacked and it died.
Oh, that did not happen for me.
I didn't have to juggle shit.
Interesting.
Did you go in and change Balthier's or any of your characters' gambits to auto toss potions when your characters?
Oh yeah. Yeah. And Vaughn died once, and then Fran I think died twice. And it was a pretty long fight. Basically, what we're discovering is I suck at games.
How many hit points does your Vaughn have? I'm curious now.
Like 135.
Oh, okay, that's why. Holy shit.
Because you chose time battle.
Oh yeah, dude, I'm sorry, man. So
that's all right. It's all right.
FYI, as the Shikari, I already have over 400 hit. My Vaughn has over 400 hit points.
Oh yeah, I definitely don't. I maybe have like 165 now.
Yeah, he has like 460 hit points.
I don't know if it's accessible until you beat the game, but this has a new game minus mode.
Yeah, what the hell? New game minus? Does that make you worse?
Yes, it means the version is you cannot level up. You stay at level 1, you can equip different gear and get licenses, but your level never goes up.
So you never gain hit points?
Well, not from leveling.
Not from leveling.
Wow.
Or any other stats, you have to get the hit points from your license boards or gear.
Yeah, it's like on my license board, I've gotten 3 or 4 nodes. One of them is like plus 30 hit points, plus 60 hit points, plus 70 hit points.
Well, and the interesting thing about that on the license board, because I just finished 7 Remake, and I don't think this is 7 Original, maybe it is, but when you level up your weapons and you go into those like planetary nodes, you can select that, HP.
No, that's not in the Original 7.
But it's interesting to see it here on the license board. I'm like, oh, this is familiar. I just saw this in the Remake.
I mean, it was also in 10 on the spheres.
Yeah.
Like in 10 of the spheres, when you level up the sphere grid, it was like, here's a plus 10 hit point, here's a plus 5 magic point, here's a plus, whatever it was. Yeah, so that's why we had vastly different experiences, because I had so many hit points that he was barely tickling my character.
Well, I'm reading the end of this guide, the guide that I mentioned, I put in the notes for the podcast from Neoseeker, says... damage from Fire Main can be mitigated somewhat by having the Goddess Magicite equipped to a character, which I definitely did not do. I didn't know you could fucking do that. As it dampens the damage the party takes from magic. Nothing can be done about Fire Main's ridiculous physical attack damage, though, other than making sure you're equipped with good gear. And so I was not. And I kept getting, I didn't lose the fight, but, Yeah. But then it says Fire Main is a fire type. Remember what we said about you had no water type attacks? Well, that's not true. What you can do is get your party members to stand in the water on either side of Fire Main, and it'll act as a damage buff, like you said, Travis. Giving your weapons water affinity, allowing you to do more damage to him. I didn't even
water
think
terrain effect.
That's what this guide says.
No, this is what the wiki says too, and I'm like, I had never even heard of this, but it doesn't surprise me that there's a weird system in here like this.
But isn't that cool? Like you've played this game 6,000 times, as we said, and that's something that didn't stand out to you, and it's like it's there to be discovered. That's so cool.
I mean, I don't know if this is from other games, but I immediately pulled him straight into the fire because I was like, okay, fire, water, bad. I was like, I don't know if it's going to do anything, but shit, I'll do it. Like I said, he barely tickled my Vaughn, and that his attention never left Vaughn the whole time. So,
well, like I said, I have a hard time with details, so I didn't even know we were in fucking water. I wasn't even paying attention. I was like, fire demon pony.
It's literally called the waterways.
You know what? That's really a good point.
I'm sorry, you've been wandering around in the water the whole dang time.
This is what doing this journey on Final Fantasy 12 is going to be like with me.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Oh man. Well, anything else for this podcast? Any last points on this section?
The only other thing that came out to me, and this is the thing we discussed briefly, is like I can very easily see the influences on 14 from this. Like the tone and everything reminds me of the human city in 14 with the browns and the desert and just the way they've made Robinaste just look. It reminds me of the capital for the humans in 14.
Is that where you start in 14?
Depends on your race.
Depends on your race.
Oh, I chose human, so yeah.
Yeah.
I chose elf, so I started in the forests. But
interesting. No, I started in the fucking desert, and this looks just
and
like
then
it.
you can, and then there's Is it the? No, it's not. It's not the race. It's your job choice.
Or yeah, that's right.
Your
Your
initial
job.
Your
Yeah.
initial job, because the human can start anywhere. It's just like, what do you want to play? Because then there's the water city.
And I was doing a paladin, which is a fighter, which starts off in the human city.
Yeah, I
Interesting.
did. I don't remember what white mage, what started in
Yep.
whatever they built from, starts in the forests. But yeah, no, the influence is there. Someone at my work today was asked. We got into it and then I'm like, okay, let me tell you through the history of this team. They did tactics, and this is the core team, and they came from Tactics Ogre and Ogre Battle. Their quest, the 3 or 4 of them quit quest, got hired by Square, did Final Fantasy Tactics, did Vagrant Story, were tapped to do a mainline Final Fantasy, which was Final Fantasy 12. Towards the end of Final Fantasy XII's development, Yasumi Matsuno left Square due to health reasons. He was the director on those other games. And he left, but the rest of this team is kind of stuck together, or at least a good chunk of it. And they didn't go on to 14 original 1.0. They were on A Realm Reborn. They were part of the team that got pulled in to salvage 14.
Yeah, we don't talk about
And
14
became
originals.
part of Creative Business Unit 3, and a good chunk of these people also worked on 16 now,
That
because there's
explains it.
still quite a few. And the main artist, though, who did the character designs for Tactics, Akihiko Yoshida, who did a bunch of the character art for 12 and Vagrant Story, he did character art. One of the last things he did was character art for Nier Automata. Like, he didn't do anything on 16. He's moved on to.
I can see parallels
stuff.
between Sexy Bunny Fran and 2B.
Sure.
Because that character design for Sexy Bunny Fran is interesting.
I mean, she
is
was the
sexy.
poster child for the entire freaking game.
Was she really? The voice acting choice, by the way, you sent that article where they talked extensively about the Icelandic actress they got for that character.
Yeah.
Is fucking perfect. That voice is really great for that character.
Yep.
Yeah,
So-
because as I said before, I pre-ordered 12 along with the strategy guide with it, and Fran was plastered all over that cover, that strategy guide. Like, she was, and all the material, marketing material for it was like the standing, like the cardboard stands. It was Fran. Like, she was front and center on everything.
Sounds about right. But I think the voice actress is great, and I'm sure that I'm going to love the characters. People have talked about how they love, not just Anthony, but other podcasts I've listened to about 12, that they like the party and the party dynamics and the characters.
Yeah. What came up with work today when we were talking, because I was mostly, I'm like, yeah, it's probably one of my favorites of the series. And I was surprised because they were like, yeah, they really liked it a lot. Basically, because this is not a chosen hero story at all. It's an ensemble political story, where we've talked before. Vaughn is just the fill-in for the players' view, but they're just along for the ride. They're not the chosen hero.
They don't become the Dragon Reborn at the end of this thing.
No, not at all.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's good. That helps with the trophy part.
That is Vaughn is not the special boy who saves everything and is the chosen one. Not at all. I don't even know if there really is a chosen one in this game in that way. It's an ensemble cast. It's much more a political story, and Vaughn and Pinello just being caught up in the machinations of everything else.
So if you think about what's next for us, we've, as we mentioned, this one covers from the Nalbina Fortress tutorial all the way through to the Rabanastre Palace. We are now waking up in the Nalbina dungeons, and the Barheim Passage is part of that. What's the next logical chunk, do you think?
Definitely the dungeons and the passage, for sure.
Yeah.
I just don't, how many hours are you going to put in?
Well, we should talk about the schedule, and maybe we can do that off mic. But
Yeah.
4 hours felt totally doable. I don't, this is what, a 50-hour game? Is that
Maybe it can be really long if you want it to be
I
long.
was gonna say with
Like if Travis wants to do all the hunts, then you're going to expand this game quite a bit. There's a hunt, the very last hunt, that is you're going to want to do it at 4 times speed, and it's still going to be like an 8-hour fight.
what the fuck? Travis, are you doing an 8-hour fight?
I mean, I did go and kill all the ultimate weapons in the original Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
And
That's a
got
yes. That's a yes.
and to do that, and I claimed all the summoning material, which meant that I had to do the chocobo breeding and racing
Yep.
to get the gold chocobo to be able to go get everything. So just to be aware that I have probably sunk more hours into Final Fantasy VII than most people will sink into like 10 games total combined. So
Oh no, what have I done? I was initially worried about what have you done, but now what have I done? What am I in for?
I mean, it's probably a good thing that the PlayStation 1 didn't keep track of how many hours you put into a game, because I would not want to see those numbers on Final Fantasy VII or Tactics for that matter, because holy shit, I got a bug up my ass on Tactics to get every job class to max level on at least one character. And Anthony can attest to how many jobs there was in that game and what that entails, because there's like 40,
There's so much.
like 30 to 40 jobs. I don't even know how many there are in Tactics. Shit.
I'd have to look it up, but there was enough that would keep you busy. And then there was like all the unique characters. And like I said, in that one, I got Cloud. I remember getting Cloud,
Yep.
and all my characters were level 90, and Cloud starts at level 1.
And and you have to level him all the way back up.
I was like, oh no.
That's formidable. So in terms of sorry, in terms of dungeons and the passage, if you were to guesstimate hours for that, 2?
Honestly, that's probably 2.
Yeah.
And then I'd get through the next part, would be my thought, which
Back to
was
Rabanastre.
well, you're going to be back in Rabanastre. That's going to be quick.
Oh, okay,
and
okay.
you'll have hunts you can do there. You could spend
sure.
extra time. Maybe check in if you want to.
Okay, so maybe get
to
through
move forward.
the Lusu mines.
Is Lusu that's Bajurba.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I would check in, see if you want to get into Bajurba and the Lusu mines.
Okay. So let's plan dungeons and passage, then back to the city, and then we can check in and see if we're going to go on to the next section or do that for the next podcast. Yeah, that sounds good. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us for our foray into Final Fantasy XII on the RPG Backlog with Prof Plays Games and Friends. I got the title right finally that time. If you don't know about it, please check out the main feed, which is Prof and Dev Play Games. Anthony's the dev. Travis has been on there talking about games of the year multiple times. And thanks for being here, and we'll be back soon with the next part of this journey.